All right, everybody have a seat. I think we're good. A couple people got a headache. That makes 3 of us. And did you get your aspirin, whatever you need? Let me know. I can get that for you too. Okay. State, call your next witness.
Yes, Judge. At this time, the state calls Neel Szalinski.
Neel Szalinski, please. And come on up, sir. And good morning to you, and thank you for your patience. If you do me a favor, come right out there, raise your right hand, face Mr. Clerk for me.
Do you solemnly swear or affirm that the evidence you're about to give will be the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth?
All right, you're going to have a seat right up here. The chair rolls and it swivels. It's a little tight in there right now, but you get where you're comfortable. The most important thing for me is that you get that microphone pretty close. The whole thing moves, get it close to you. And if you're going to be looking over there at the jury, make sure you kind of angle it that way, because it's the mic needs to talk directly into it. And then do me a favor, if you tell us your full name and slowly spell your last name for us.
Okay. It's Neel Szalinski. Last name is spelled Zielinski.
State, you may proceed.
Thank you, Your Honor. Good morning.
Good morning.
Mr. Zielinski, where are you employed?
I'm employed with the Palm Beach County Sheriff's Office.
And can you maybe push the microphone a little bit closer?
Sure.
Okay, great. You said the Palm Beach County Sheriff's Office?
Yes.
And in what capacity do you work at the Palm Beach County Sheriff's Office?
I'm a crime scene investigator.
How long have you been a crime scene investigator?
I'm on my 15th year.
And have all 15 years of service been with Palm Beach County Sheriff's Office?
Yes.
Can you just tell us briefly what your duties are as a crime scene investigator at the Palm Beach County Sheriff's Office? What do you do?
Generally speaking, at the Sheriff's Office, we respond out to crime scenes. When we get there, we will document the scenes with notes and photography. We also take sketches. We make diagrams later on. We search for evidence. When the evidence is located, sometimes we have to process that further for DNA or latent fingerprints. And then we come to a point where we have to collect some of those items, and we make sure that they're packaged properly for preservation. And then once that's done, we bring it back. We submit it to the evidence unit. We write reports, and we testify in trial.
I want to point your attention back to October of 2015. Now, you were employed at the Palm Beach County Sheriff's Office at that time, correct?
Yes.
And you were working in your capacity and role as a crime scene investigator?
Yes.
Were you called out to involve yourself into the officer-involved shooting death of Corey Jones?
I was not called out to it. Would you like to me to explain? On that date, it was my day off, and I had set up, basically rearranged my schedule to do proficiency testing on the equipment that we have.
Now, let me get you to pause right there. When we're talking about the date that was your day off, you didn't actually go to the scene the morning of the shooting, did you?
On the 18th, I responded there.
You went out, and that was your day off, is that correct?
Correct.
Okay, and so when you got there, what were you there to do? Were you there to work or do anything related to your job?
No, I had wanted to come into work to work proficiency testing on equipment that was not at my work, and I found out where it was, and so I asked if I can come in there. So when I had gotten to the location off of PGA, my role essentially was just to observe CSI Thomas operate the equipment.
And the equipment that you're referring to, is that the Leica scan of the scene?
Yes, it was like a C10 scanner.
Okay, so just so that it's clear, you were off, you responded to the scene just to observe how CSI Thomas operated that equipment?
Correct.
So while you were there on the morning of the 18th, did you do anything in your role as a CSI for PBSO?
No, I did not.
Now, did there come a point in time where you did actually take some type of role in the investigation?
Yes, I did.
And what date was that?
That was October 21st, 2015.
And what were you asked to do?
Detective Smith had contacted me. He had to have somebody come and pick up clothing from Officer Raja, and that clothing was located at the PBA hall, and he needed somebody to come by and pick that up for chain of custody purposes and submission to the evidence unit.
Now, I want to back up for a little bit, because what day did you say that you responded to pick up clothing?
Oh, I'm sorry. Actually, The second, I'm sorry, I meant to say on the 21st, I went to the PGA location again.
When you
And
say PGA location, can you tell us, are you referring to the location where the incident occurred?
yes, I am.
And what was the purpose of you being called out or directed to the crime scene?
So again, Detective Smith on that date requested somebody to come out there to help assist with searching that area for casings or projectile fragments with a metal detector. So that was on the 21st that I responded out there.
Okay, so the 21st, a couple of days after the shooting.
Yes.
Did anyone assist you with, you said you were called out to use metal detectors and search the area?
Right.
Okay, did anyone assist you with that task?
The visual search was on and off with Detective Smith, but the actual use of the metal detector was just by myself.
So you didn't have a team of people with metal detectors out there with you searching that day?
No, it was just myself with the metal detector.
And on the 21st, when you responded to search for projectiles or fragments with the metal detector, did you find anything?
No.
And was that the only day that you searched?
Yes.
And was that all that you did on the 21st as it relates to this case?
Yes.
Okay. So after the 21st, you concluded your search of the scene. Were you asked to do anything else as it related to this investigation?
Yes, so on the 27th is when I responded to the PBA hall.
And is that the 27th of October?
Yes, the 27th of October, 2015.
All right. And would that have been about 9 days after the shooting?
Yes, it would have.
Okay. And what were you asked to do 9 days later?
Detective Smith had asked at that point to come out to the PBA hall to take custody of Officer Raja's clothing.
All right. So did you respond to the PBA hall as instructed?
Yes, I did.
And when you got there, can you just tell us what happened?
I arrived at the PBA hall. I met with Detective Smith. We went inside the PBA hall, and we met with PBA Larry Fagan, I believe was his name. And then he took us to the outside where there was vehicles parked in the parking lot. He unlocked a car, and inside the car was a bag of clothing, and I had taken possession of that clothing.
Let me stop you right there. Now, when you say PBA hall, what is that?
That's the Police Benevolent Association. It's off of Florida Mango.
And you were asked to go there to pick up clothing. When you were instructed, did you know whose clothing you were coming to pick up?
I believe I was told it was Officer Raja's clothing before I had gotten there.
Okay, so it would have been the defendant's clothing that you were sent to pick up 9 days after the shooting.
Yes.
And when you arrived there, you met a man who directed you to a vehicle. Is that right? Is that what you said?
Yes.
Okay. Now, did you go outside to that vehicle?
Yes.
And someone opened the door for you, and what did you find and where did you locate it?
We opened up the car, and on the front passenger floorboard was a plastic shopping type bag, and inside that bag was some clothing.
Okay. And so, to your knowledge, for those 9 days in between the shooting and when you picked up the clothing, had that clothing been in any type of police evidence or custody?
Not to my knowledge.
Once you took possession of the clothing that you were told was the defendant's, what did you do at that time?
The clothing was put into evidence bags from the sheriff's office. We have property receipts, which lists the items that I had taken. I had Mr. Fagan sign for that to show that he was in the chain of custody, that I'm taking it from his possession. It was then brought back to the sheriff's office where it was photographed, and then eventually it was put into the evidence unit.
And to your knowledge, do you recall what items you collected?
Yes. There was blue jeans, a pair of shoes, a pair of socks, and a shirt and a hat.
Your Honor, may I approach the witness?
You may.
Mr. Zielinski, CSI Zielinski, I am showing you what's in evidence as states composite exhibit, and it's only letters D, 44D through L. Just want you to take a look and let me know if you recognize what's in these photos.
Yes, I recognize them.
Sure you can. Come on up and take a look at it.
You recognize these photos?
Yes.
Now, are these photographs were they taken by you?
Yes.
Okay. And do these photographs contain or depict the items that you collected from the Police Benevolent Association?
Yes.
Your Honor, may I publish?
You may.
Okay, and I'm just going to go quickly because we've already seen them, but is this the hat that you photographed and collected?
Yes, it is.
Pair of socks?
Yes, those are them.
Footwear?
Yes.
And jeans?
Yes.
And would this have been the shirt?
Yes, ma'am.
Do we admit those pictures?
Your Honor, may I first look?
You may.
I'm going to show you what I will mark as item exhibit number 70. And may I approach right now?
You may.
Let me take a look at what's marked as exhibit 70.
Okay.
And would this have been an item that you packaged?
Yes.
And what is contained inside of this bag?
Those are the blue jeans.
And is the packaging in the same or substantially the same condition as it was when you collected and packaged the item?
Yes, it is.
Thank you. Your Honor, at this time, the state will move to evidence states exhibit number 70.
70?
Yes.
No objection admitted.
May I approach again, Your Honor? I'm approaching you with what's marked for identification as states exhibit number 71. Do you recognize this package?
Yes, I do.
And what is contained inside of this bag?
2 shoes.
Okay, and is this an item that you collected from the PBA hall?
Yes, it is.
And is it in the same or substantially the same condition as it was when you originally collected it and packaged it?
Yes.
Your Honor, at this time, we will move into evidence states exhibit number 71.
Admitted.
May I approach again, Your Honor? I'm approaching with what is marked for identification purposes as states exhibit number 72. Do you recognize it?
Yes, I do.
And what is contained in this package?
2 socks.
2 socks. And are those 2 socks that you collected on that day?
Yes.
Okay, and is it in the same or substantially the same condition as it was when you collected and packaged it?
Yes.
Thank you. At this time, we would offer into evidence states exhibit number 72.
Admitted.
May I approach, Your Honor?
You may.
I'm approaching now the state's exhibit or marked for identification as number 73. Do you recognize that bag?
I do.
And what is contained in that bag?
A hat, a brown hat.
Okay, and is this a brown hat that you collected of the defendants from the PBA hall?
Yes.
All right. Is it in the same or substantially the same condition as it was when you collected and packaged it?
Yes, it is.
At this time, Judge, we will offer into evidence state's exhibit number 73.
Admitted.
And finally, I'm going to approach you with state's exhibit number 74. Your Honor, may I approach? Showing you this bag marked by ID is number 74. Do you recognize it?
Yes, I do.
And what's contained in this bag?
That is a brown shirt.
All right. And Did you collect this brown shirt and put it in this bag?
Yes,
And is it in the same or substantially the same condition as it was when you collected and packaged it?
yes.
At this time, Your Honor, we will move into evidence states exhibit number 74.
Admitted.
And Your Honor, we would ask that the witness be allowed to publish these items to the jury.
Sure. And here you go, sir. Thank you. We need scissors.
Do we need scissors?
I believe you need some scissors. Could I have the scissors, please? Thank you.
Thank you.
You're welcome, sir.
Your Honor, may we approach before that?
Those photographs there, are you done with those? Why don't we get those out of the way and that little clicker, and then you can use that whole, there you go, sir. Get yourself where you can do your job.
These are the blue jeans that I was collected from the car.
All right, just so we don't get the bags and everything mixed up, let's make sure we're pretty methodical with that. And when he's done with it, Ms. Cox, can we have it passed over to Damien? Do you have gloves? Who's got the? You need some? Damien, you got some on? Well, I don't want him to have to keep walking back and forth. I want somebody to help me in between. Hurry things up. Perfect. Thanks, Dunk. And if you just hold them up, don't say anything, just hold them up. Obviously, they're a pair of shoes. Ms. Cox happy? Satisfied? And let's put them back in the bag. Deputy Dunkley, grab the bag. And let's get to the next bag. And Damien's doing his job over here. Just to let you know, so you hear a lot of rattling, a lot of bags, a lot of rattling. If it gets where you can't hear or anything like that, let me know. He's just trying to be very efficient, both Rita and Damien. But it keeps things moving this way. But if it becomes too much, tell me. And if you, let me see what you got there. Okay, that is the cap. Hold it up. And thank you. We'll bag that up. And that's a pair of socks. And those were all these things are the things that were depicted in the photos, and we'll have all those back there for you, whatever you need, as well as a box of gloves. Thanks, Don. And just hold it up just like that, and you can turn it around. And that'll be that.
And as far as the other side of the shirt, Your Honor?
If they want to look at it, you can look at it when it goes back there to you. That's admitted into evidence. Thank you.
Thank you, Judge.
You're welcome.
No further questions on the witness, Your Honor.
Yes, sir. Oh, you don't have any? Sorry about that. And you need your stuff anyhow. So thank you very much. I think there's a garbage can somewhere for you to dispose of those gloves. Don, help us out there. Oh, there you go. Thank you. And you're excused, sir. We're making good progress. Thanks, Ms. Cox. Do you have another witness ready? Ms. Ellis?
Friedel?
Say it again for me.
Mr. Friedel.
Mr. Friedel, please. Mr. Friedel, good morning, sir. And thank you for your patience. Follow Deputy Dunkley right out here to the middle. Once you make it there, if you'd raise your right hand and face Mr. Clerk for me.
Do you solemnly swear or affirm that the evidence you're about to give will be the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth? Yes.
Now you're going to have a seat right up here. Watch your step. This chair swivels and rolls, and the microphone moves wherever you want it. Now get yourself comfortable. But the most important thing for me is that you get that microphone pretty close to your mouth. It works so wonderful when you get it right there. And I got a feeling you're either going to be looking that way or that way. So move it so when you turn your head. And then do me a favor, if you'd state your full name for the record and spell your last name for us.
My name is Rod Friedel. Last name is Friedel.
And pull the microphone a little closer to you. That base moves. The whole.
Okay.
Yeah, there you go.
May I proceed, Your Honor?
Go ahead.
Thank you. Okay, Mr. Friedel, can you just speak just a little bit louder in the microphone when you answer your questions? Just want to make sure they can hear you, okay?
Okay.
Where are you currently employed?
Palm Beach County, traffic.
Okay. And when you say Palm Beach County traffic, what is that exactly?
It's a group within the engineering division at Palm Beach County that oversees the traffic signals and the communication equipment that speaks to the signals.
Okay. And you said oversees the traffic signals. Are you talking about for the traffic lights?
Yes.
Okay. In terms of overseeing the traffic signals for the traffic lights, what are your other duties involved?
My primary duties are to work with the fiber optic cables that communicate to the controllers at the signals.
Okay. Do you work do you have anything to do with any cameras that would be installed on traffic lights?
No.
Okay. Let me ask you about an area in the county, and that is Palm Beach Gardens area. Okay, are you familiar with Palm Beach Gardens area?
Yes.
Okay. I want to specifically drill down to the area of PGA and I-95, and that would be going south, and there's a ramp that you can get off. I believe it's exit 79C, I think, something like that. Are you familiar with that area at all?
Yes.
Okay. And so you know that do you know whether or not there's a traffic light there?
There is a traffic light there.
Is there a camera on that traffic light?
No.
Back in October of 2015, was there a camera installed on that traffic light?
Can I go back and clarify the previous question?
Absolutely.
There's a camera there now, but in 2015 there was not.
Okay. Was there any sort of recording device that would have been installed at that traffic light back in October of 2015?
No.
Okay. Judge, may I have a moment?
You may.
No further questions, Judge.
Any cross?
Just briefly, Judge.
Go ahead.
Good morning, sir.
Good morning.
Just to be clear, there are two traffic lights in that intersection, right?
Well, yes, there's signals for PGA and there's signals for the 95 getting off.
And there's no recording device on either camera?
No, sir.
That's it. Thank you, Judge.
Be excused, Judge.
Mr. Friedel, you're excused.
Well, thank you,
That
sir.
was quick. Thank you, sir. Watch your step, okay? All right. You may approach. The jurors are still waiting for me to say no. Ask, because when you're a young lawyer, and none of them are super young lawyers anymore, but you're trained to do that. And the good lawyers do it. And I want to thank all of you for the respect you've shown the court. I appreciate it. In the jury room for a second. We're having a little discussion about scheduling. Thanks for your patience. We're in good shape. If the food's there, don't start eating yet. If the food is there, don't start eating, because I know I won't get you out. Watch your step, guys. Thank you for your patience. All right, so State, see if you can get an update. What's the status of your witness?
Judge, she was,
About 11:30?
about 11:30. She was stuck in traffic on Commercial and 95. That was a little while ago. So she's thinking around 11:30 she may be here.
And how about the other person you mentioned?
She's going to check and see how far away she is.
All right. Everybody relax. For the citizens that are watching, the lawyers in this case, we have moved through a lot of witnesses, a lot of evidence, a lot of marking of evidence. Trust me, these lawyers have been super efficient so far. And I appreciate I told them here that it's been, this is how you're supposed to do your business. So relax, State. Let's see this happens to everybody.
Judge, just talking about scheduling. We are ahead of schedule.
Wonderful.
As I'd mentioned, we have witnesses that are coming out of Washington, D.C. They're not available until Monday.
Okay, we discussed that last night.
Yes, sir. We have, I think, about seven or eight other witnesses prior to them. So, we could potentially run through them today. But we also did have another witness coming from Washington that we have scheduled for tomorrow morning. That's coming in tonight.
Well, I'm going to be very fluid for both sides. We had the issue over here, and I had a ruling, one kind of holding out, and then the behavior and the diligence and everything has made me, so everything's fluid.
Maybe at a point to where we would look at finishing a little early today. We could even discuss other items that we need to discuss, such as jury instructions.
I was going to bring that up. I would prefer, if you're really thinking you're in that situation, I'd love to try to get everybody other than your two witnesses on Monday, and I could tell the jurors they could have Friday off, and we could do our charge conference and things. We would work, and it wouldn't, a couple hours of our time, argue some legal issues. But that's just a thought. I'll give both sides an opportunity. I don't know.
Well, there's a couple of witnesses that I think you're calling for.
We have one witness that is flying in tonight to testify tomorrow.
Okay.
And so we're looking at
We could
maybe
do a half a day tomorrow. We
Yes,
could either
sir.
start later or end earlier. I'm whatever you all want.
That's Monday. So,
I'm happy to take Friday off if they want to take Friday.
All right. I don't prefer it, but sometimes these are the things that occur, and because the way, how rapid we've been moving.
once we do this next witness over lunch, we'll find out if we can stop our witness getting on the flight right now. We're coming in tonight to testify tomorrow. We'll have them come in Monday, and that way we'd be clean for tomorrow to do whatever you'd like done.
Well, the flip side is I'm also a little worried about Monday with the witness that's has to testify on their side on Monday. Do all three of your witnesses then have to leave on Monday?
Just two of them, sir.
Okay.
Well, actually, they don't have to leave, no, sir.
All right. So because of everything that's happened, we're going to make sure we take that witness as well. And I got a feeling, and I'm just guessing because I don't know what you all have planned for me, things are going to slow down a little bit. Some witnesses are going to be very lengthy. Is that a fair guess?
Dr. Juice is going to be...
Not Dr. Juiced. Some other doctors. I hear there's a human factors expert.
Yeah.
They're not exceedingly long. I mean,
No, those witnesses just seem long.
It's not like we're having a 3-hour witness or anything, Your Honor.
All right.
I mean, not as far as my expectation.
Okay.
But there will be...
Let's get a little update on the state's end of what they need and desire.
I have one for you, Judge. The witness who is on her way here, and I was told to be about 11:30, the one after her, who I was trying to get here, can't be here until 12:30.
Okay.
That is our fingerprint.
Do we have anybody to keep us busy until just short of noon? Is the other witness going to be here?
The one who said she could be here by 11:30, she's on her way. And she's not here yet at the courthouse, but she indicated she will be here. She can be here by 11:30.
Okay. Well, I'd like to squeeze this witness in and...
Let me just make sure, Judge, because I don't know. I think she's trying to text and drive to keep
No, I'm not sanctioning that. I'm not... No way, that's bad.
So, Judge, if you... Gosh, I hate making the court wait. We went a lot faster than we thought this morning, Judge, and so we kind of had them spaced out the way we thought they would go. And I'll take the blame, Judge, because I did tell...
You don't have to take... Relax. Both sides have been fantastic. Relax. There are trials for the citizens saying, that judge is so nice. Not true. There are some trials I'm saying, you better get a witness here right now or you're going to be resting early. But you guys have done an excellent job. So why don't we take a 5-minute break, see where, maybe call her instead of texting her.
Yes.
And call her. And
She's been trying to call me.
it's all right. I'll come back in 5 minutes.
Okay.
And then we'll get a better feel for where we are. All right?
Yes, sir.
Relax.
Thank you, Your Honor.
You got it.
She's probably a little bit closer now, maybe.
but I know their lunch is there, so it comes out. I know their lunch is there.
Their food's there.
Yeah, Judge, if we can just...
That's what we're going to do. So we're going to go to early lunch,
Yes, sir.
and then we'll take an hour and 15 minutes, an hour or so. I don't know what's going on outside the courthouse. I don't know. I'm stuck in here with you guys as well. And I'll just leave it to the deputies. And I think they're going to eat right there.
Okay.
So the reason I'm mentioning that is because being stuck in there, for you folks that don't know, the room's not very nice. And although I've furnished it with coffee and that, it's not very nice. So it's tough to be stuck in there, but kind of the way of the world. Any objection that if I just walk right there, poke my head in and tell them they're going to eat, and we'll come get them when they're ready in about a little over an hour, hour and 15 minutes. Any objection from either side? And do charge conference and handle some legal issues that still need to be resolved.
And I think that's pretty preferable for us.
That sounds wonderful.
And then today, though, I'll
Just go until we run out.
Yes, sir.
And if we break early, then we break early. Maybe we'll do some legal issues this afternoon, depending.
Thank you, sir.
So the defense should be ready to hit the ground running. You know, you have the one witness on Monday, but you have two witnesses we know for sure that are flying in on Monday or flying in preparation for Monday. And then if we work on Friday, how many more witnesses after those two witnesses on Monday do you have?
1 second. We would have
So-
3 total after we're done.
They should be ready to rock and roll come Monday afternoon.
Yes, sir.
Okay? Wonderful.
What did we discuss?
And there he is. And the witness is available? She's right here. Good afternoon. You safe? Yes. You're not under oath yet, but you didn't text and drive, did you?
No.
All right. I was worried. Now, I'm glad you made it here safely. Things happen to everybody. I'm a human being just like you, and it just happened. So breathe, no problem. Everybody. All right. Oh, Dunk? No. You got something to do, do it. Yeah. So we have 2 witnesses in the courtroom, is that right? Yeah, one. One. How are you? Nice to see you as well. You weren't driving together, were you? Separately? And you didn't text and drive either? All right. I'm just teasing. Nice to see you. Thanks, counselor. Okay, I think we're ready to get the jury in here. Let's get to work. Was it good? Glad I could do it for you. Everybody have a seat. And I appreciate your patience. I know it was a little choppy there. It's just hard for you to know. I think some of you have been jurors before, but there's a lot happening here. And sometimes little glitches happen, whether scheduling, traffic, or legal issues that we have to take up. And I just always like to point out when it is going very rapidly and professionally. That's what's happening right now. But I appreciate your patience because you're doing us a favor. So with that being said, State, you ready to call your next witness?
Yes, Your Honor. State calls Nicole Forrest.
Nicole Forrest, please. Nicole, come on up. Meet Deputy Dunkley right over here. And once you get to Deputy Dunkley, raise your right hand, face Mr. Clerk for us.
Do you solemnly swear or affirm that the evidence you're about to give will be the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth?
Yes, sir.
And Nicole, come this way. And you're going to have a seat in here. And this chair swivels and it rolls. So I want you to be happy. So you have a seat and get it where you'd like it. But one thing I need from you is to get close enough and drag that microphone. And yep, Deputy Dunkley, he's got big biceps from pushing people in all the time. And so tell us your full name and spell your last name for us.
My name is Nicole Forrest, Forest.
Terrific. State, you may proceed.
Thank you, Your Honor. Good afternoon.
Good afternoon.
Ms. Forrest, where do you currently live?
I live in Broward County.
Okay. And are you employed?
Yes.
Who are you employed with?
Florida Department of Transportation.
How long have you been with that agency?
About 4.5 years.
Okay. And what do you do for them?
I'm the program manager for our incident management program.
Okay. And program manager for incident
Management program.
management, right. What exactly does that entail?
It entails me overseeing the day-to-day operation of our Road Ranger Service Patrol and our Severe Incident Response Vehicle program and some other contracts that we have where we clear the roadways.
Okay. And now you mentioned road ranger. So what is a road ranger?
Road ranger is a person who is patrolling the interstate, and their main function is to make sure that they clear the travel lanes and the shoulders so we can restore traffic safely.
Okay. As a part of, do you know how many road rangers are employed with your agency that you guys use as vendors?
Yes, we roughly have probably about 50 road rangers in District 4.
Okay. And District 4 would include what area?
Broward, Palm Beach, Martin, St. Lucie, and Indian River counties.
So now, can you just describe for us, if something happens to someone's vehicle, and they need to get a tow truck. How does it come about that you all would get involved? What would that person have to do?
If the person needs assistance, they call star 347, and that routes it to our dispatch center, and we can dispatch a road ranger that patrols that area to assist them. And if they can't, then the road ranger would try to help them make their own arrangements to get assistance.
Okay. Now, when the dispatch goes out, the dispatch is going out to whomever, I guess, would be in that area that would be closest to the person who needs the assistance. Is that right?
Correct.
So is there someone who is there, who is the dispatcher, that is keeping, let's say, notes or an event chronology type of form that would tell you and anybody else with DOT, you know, what the call was for, why the person is needed, what's wrong with the vehicle? Is there someone there that's kind of typing all that in when the call comes in?
Yes.
Okay. The person who is the road ranger, are they given some sort of document for them to use once they arrive on scene to the person who needs assistance? Or
Could you
some kind
repeat?
of form?
Could you repeat that?
The person who's the road ranger?
Yes.
Are they given some kind of form? Do they have some kind of form that they would be required to use if they're, in the event that they're dispatched to someone who's broken down and needs assistance from them?
Yes.
Okay. And what kind of form is that?
It's the road ranger incident management log.
Okay. Judge, I'm going to, I'd like to show Ms. Forrest what is going to be States 75. We have a stipulation to it, Your Honor.
Great, so they stipulated to the admissibility of 75, so 75 is hereby admitted, and you may approach the witness.
Thank you, Your Honor. I can take a look at this form. Now, can you tell us what we're looking at?
This is the road ranger incident management log sheet that they are required to have during their shift.
Okay, so what I'm going to do is I have a copy of that, so I'm just going to put this up here so that the members of the jury can see what you have.
And you know you have it on this little TV right here next to you, so you can see.
There we go. Okay. So this is what you're looking at there, right?
Yes.
So now let's start with the date. Well, first of all, let's start with the driver. Who was the driver back on what it looks like to be 10/17/2015?
His name was Hemris McGewan.
Okay. And the date there is 10/17/15. Is that what date does that represent?
Date represents when he started his shift.
Okay. And did his shift go over into 10/18/15?
Yes.
So now he has logged on here 4 what you would call incidents.
Yes.
Okay. Let's start with column number 1. Time advised. What does that mean?
That would be the time that the road ranger would be advised of a call.
Okay. Now, Mr. McEwen didn't fill that in. Are they required to put that in there, or sometimes they just forget to put it in?
They're required to, but it happens that they forget.
Okay. And let's move over to arrival time on scene. Now, I want to focus on this one right here, which is the one that says 2:23. Would that have been 2:23 a.m.?
Yes.
Okay. And it would have been just exactly what it says, time he arrived on scene, right?
Correct.
Now, next to that column is departure time from scene. Now, that's blank as well. So I guess it's safe to assume that Mr. McEwen forgot to put the time he departed the scene.
Yes.
But now, even though he didn't put that there, the time that he left the scene, would it be noted in the dispatch notes, the dispatcher who actually dispatched him to that location?
Yes.
Okay. So let's move over to the next column, which says vehicle, make, and model. And that is what type for that one?
What's written here?
Yes, ma'am.
Yeah, it says Hyundai.
Okay. And vehicle color,
Silver.
Okay, and vehicle tag
286PRH,
and vehicle tag state.
F for Florida.
Okay, and service code.
That's 9, as it indicates at the bottom, stalled vehicle.
Okay, so you have all these service codes on the bottom, and I think there are 21 there. And so they're required to put in what they're responding to, why they were dispatched for assistance.
Correct.
And number 9 represents stalled vehicle.
Yes.
And the next column is closest intersection, and what's there?
PGA Boulevard.
And the next column is lane number, left to right. What does he have noted there?
He has the letter R.
Okay. And what is the next column, Mrs. Forrest?
That would be the direction, northbound, southbound, westbound, or eastbound.
Okay. And what does he have noted there?
S for southbound.
Okay. And the next column is, I think it's a little cut off there, but does that the incident number?
Yes.
Okay. And what does that represent?
That represents the last 3 digits of the event chronology the operator at the dispatch center is handling.
Okay. So now, if Mr. McEwen had shown up to PGA, where he has noted there, and if something had happened, let's say the person who is the owner of the Hyundai who called for assistance would have gotten violent with him, confrontational, or irate, or anything like that, would that have been noted anywhere on this form?
No.
Okay. Is there a place where that type of information, if the person becomes confrontational, violent, irate, is there a place where that type of information would have been noted?
Yes.
Where is that?
The event chronology.
Okay. And the event chronology that you're referring to, that would come from the person who is the dispatcher?
Correct.
Okay. Now, did you have a chance before testifying today to review the event chronology report related to that particular incident?
Yes.
Okay. And did you note or did you see in there where Mr. McEwen noted that, he arrived on scene, couldn't help Corey Jones. Corey Jones became confrontational, violent, irate. Did you see any of that in there?
No.
Based on what you reviewed from your event chronology dispatch notes, was there anything that was remarkable that stood out to you that was like just kind of uncommon?
No.
Okay. Judge, may I have a moment?
Of course.
Judge, I don't have anything else.
Ross?
Yes.
You're welcome.
Thank you, Ms. Forrest.
Thank you.
Good afternoon, ma'am.
Good afternoon.
On this form, which has been admitted into evidence, there's nothing to indicate that local law enforcement has been notified of this incident, is there?
No.
And you don't notify local law enforcement of an incident like a stalled vehicle?
No.
Thank you.
All right. I presume that's it. Ms. Forrest, you are free to go.
Thank you.
Drive safely.
I will, thank you.
Okay, watch your step. State, call your next witness.
Just grab that form.
I believe she's on her way up right now, Your Honor.
When you say up, not from Miami, but from the downstairs in the courthouse?
Yeah, she's supposed to be coming into the courthouse, but let me.
Okay, check. All right. Do you have a name? He'll yell out in the hallway too.
Yacovone?
Yacovone. Good luck with that. Judge Mounts was a judge here for many, many, many years. A lot of the younger people don't remember Judge Mounts, but he used to tell his bailiff, Robbie, go in the hall and make a hall sounding. You remember that? A hall sounding, which nowadays means go out and yell the person's name. The lawyers usually tell you this, but I don't think that's been mentioned. So a lot of times you see the lawyers on their cell phones while things are going on. They're working. They're not checking the stock market and things like that. And They don't mean any disrespect, but it keeps things moving, and sometimes we have a little glitch like this. So Yacovone was not there, I presume?
No, sir.
Okay. All right.
I have one more witness, but she's after Yacovone.
All right. Sometimes witnesses have to come in a certain order based on evidentiary requirements, and I'm going to take that as what's going on here. So I think you know what I'm going to say. Turn your pads upside down. Don't talk about the case. We're going to put you in the jury room and hopefully have you out within the next 3 minutes. Covering for Judge Stewart, whose wife was ill. And so Judge Harper broke me in, which was...
So did you have Stewart? Were you here for,
Judge Stewart was my main judge.
and were you here for Red Johnson?
Of course.
Yeah. I can't, I don't.
She's here.
Yes, sir.
All legends.
Yeah.
I pale in comparison. Let's get, is it Miss Yacovone?
Yes, sir.
Have her step right into the hallway and then tell them, I kept my promise, 3 minutes. Let's do it. And state for the jury's purpose, would you call your next witness?
Yes, sir.
Everybody have a seat.
Call Ms. Yacovone.
Miss Yacovone, please. And Miss Yacovone, good afternoon. Come on up, follow the deputy. You're going to be passed off to Deputy Dunkley right here in the middle of the courtroom. Once you reach Deputy Dunkley, if you raise your right hand and face Mr. Clerk for us.
Do you solemnly swear or affirm the evidence you're about to give will be the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth?
I do.
All right, you're going to have a seat right up here. Please watch your step. If you want to put that purse right behind here, I won't let you forget it. That's perfect. The chair swivels, it rolls.
Okay, thank you.
And you got something you need? Yep. You take your time getting set up. You can move that microphone around. The only real important thing for me is you get the microphone where we can hear you. And once you're all settled in and you're satisfied, if you would state your full name and definitely spell your last name for us.
Good afternoon. My name is Elise Yacovone Margetts. My last name is spelled Yacovone Margetts.
Terrific. State, you may proceed.
Thank you, Your Honor. Good afternoon, ma'am.
Good afternoon.
And if you would please explain to the jury what you do for a living back in 2015.
In 2015, I was a forensic scientist in the forensic biology unit at Palm Beach County Sheriff's Office.
And what are you doing now, ma'am?
Currently, I'm a senior forensic scientist.
And as a forensic scientist for Palm Beach County Sheriff's Office, what are your duties?
As a forensic scientist, I was responsible for analyzing items of evidence in criminal cases. I come to court and testify to those findings, issue reports. As a senior forensic scientist, I also mentor younger forensic scientists and participate in validation studies.
And if you would just go over your educational background, please.
I have a bachelor's of science in biology from the University of Florida, which I obtained in 2010. And from there, I continued my education and got a master's of science with a concentration in forensic science, also from the University of Florida in 2012.
And what kind of specialized training have you gone through, both in the past and also continuing presently in relation to your field as a forensic scientist?
At Palm Beach County Sheriff's Office, we have two processes, serology and DNA analysis, and I underwent training for both those programs. So for serology, it's a 4-month-long training program in which I'm kind of given assignments of case samples that are representative of what we would see in casework. I conduct testing on those samples. I learn all of our laboratory protocols. At the end of that training program, I have to undergo a competency test, which is essentially an exam where I have a mock trial, bench practical, a written exam to make sure that I'm qualified to conduct these testings. I also, in 2016, underwent the training for DNA, which is a similar training program.
And so what type of procedures are there for obtaining accreditation?
Accreditation means that a laboratory follows nationally and international standards to maintain quality within the laboratory system. So we provide accurate and reliable testing. To obtain accreditation, it's an application process where our laboratory applies for accreditation. Assessors or auditors will come out and make sure our laboratory has protocols, we're following our protocols, and that's to obtain that accreditation. So PBSO was accredited in 1991, and we've been continually accredited tested since then. And every year, we have to undergo audits, which are kind of thorough document reviews of our protocols and procedures to make sure that we're following them.
And as far as proficiency, each individual has to pass proficiency, is that correct?
Yes, so one of the standards is that in the DNA unit, analysts are proficiency tested. A proficiency test is an exam that's administered to an analyst where the results are known, but as an analyst, I don't know the results. I will conduct my testing, submit the results essentially for grading to make sure that I'm following my procedures and obtaining the correct results.
And how often do you go through this proficiency testing, ma'am?
As a DNA analyst, I have to go through proficiency testing twice a year.
And have you passed those proficiency tests?
Yes, I have.
And are you certified in any way, ma'am?
I am certified in molecular biology by the American Board of Criminalistics.
And do you also use controls in the lab?
Yes, for any testing that will be conducted, I utilize controls. A control is a known sample with a known result. So for example, before I begin any testing, I test my reagents on my controls. So if I'm testing for blood, I have a positive known blood source that I add my chemicals to. I make sure the appropriate reaction occurs, and I also do that for a negative control, so on a blank sheet of filter paper. And I do that before any testing of in the case.
And so you would have done that prior to any type of testing or analysis in this case, like you do in all your cases, ma'am?
Yes.
And is your entire work dedicated to the field of DNA and serology?
Yes.
And have you testified previously as an expert?
Yes, I have. I've testified approximately 40 times.
And in relation to serology and DNA analysis, what types of evidence do you analyze?
We analyze mostly touch evidence, so it can be evidence from skin cells that are left behind on an object. We also test for biological fluids. At PBSO, we test for blood as well as semen.
And if you would explain the difference between serology and DNA analysis.
At PBSO, serology, really we refer to the process of finding and identifying biological fluids if they're present. It's also the process of note-taking, documentation of that item of evidence as it comes to us. Sometimes, depending on the case scenario, we may swab for the touch DNA. So if it's a shirt, maybe I'm swabbing certain areas of a shirt, for example. After the end of the serology process, all of the samples, they're individually packaged, they get put and forwarded to DNA. The DNA analyst then will receive that, we call it a serology bag, but it's essentially a sealed bag that has individually sealed and labeled samples for testing. So that DNA analyst will then conduct the DNA process at that point.
And what is the actual process for analysis when we're discussing serology?
Can you repeat the question?
What's the process for analysis for serology?
So once I obtain the items of evidence, I'm going to clean my work area. I make sure I put on all my protective equipment, so lab coat, hairnet, goggles, mask, gloves, all of that. I clean my work area. Anything I'm going to be touching, so scissors, pens, pencils, that all gets cleaned. When I begin my examination, I make sure I'm only opening one item of evidence at a time. I make sure when I'm done with that item, it's sealed and stored away, and I clean the work area before I begin my next item of evidence. So that process proceeds for all the items of evidence in a particular case, and I only handle like one case at a time as well.
And then what is the significance of the information that you obtain as a result of your analysis for serology?
The significance?
What does it show? When you analyze for serology, what will it show you as the end result?
So the end result of a serology process will be if biological fluid is identified. So again, we test for blood and semen at PBSO. We also will summarize if we swab any items of evidence, and that all gets summarized in a report, which is released.
And then did you analyze evidence that was submitted to you in PBSO case number 15-133920?
Yes, I did.
And what tests or examinations did you conduct on these exhibits?
So there are a couple of submissions in here where I examined for the presence of blood.
And did these tests and examinations permit you to arrive at conclusions regarding the evidence that was submitted to you?
Yes.
And let's look at your report that's dated October 27th of 2015. And you were presented with multiple submissions for analysis related to serology, is that correct?
Yes, that's correct.
And the submissions that you actually had, just lining them out, you had submission number 8, which were oral standards from Nouman Raja, is that correct?
Yes.
Had you ever met Nouman Raja before this, ma'am?
No, I have not.
You also had submission 34, swabs from a copper-colored defect on a pistol, is that correct?
Yes.
You had submission 39, blood standards from Corey Jones.
Correct.
Had you ever met Mr. Jones?
No, I had not.
Submission 46 and 47, which were hair and fingernail samples, also from Mr. Jones. And then submission 52, which were swabs from a pistol box and also from a magazine and live rounds. Is that correct?
Yes, those are additionally itemized, but those were contained in submission 52.
And whenever it's additionally itemized under a submission number, do you then accord it letters, such as for submission 52, you have 52A, which relates to swabs from a pistol box, 52B, which are swabs from the pistol manual exterior, and so forth?
Yes.
And is that how not only you then have your submissions labeled, but also as any evidence gets presented down the road to DNA analysis, they also have the same submission numbers and letters?
Yes.
And also those are then reflected both in your reports and also the DNA analyst reports accordingly?
Yes.
And you also had submission 54, which dealt with swabs from the exterior handles.
Correct.
And that would be from a door to a vehicle, correct?
My notes don't say anything about a vehicle, but they'll say left front exterior handle.
And then submission 55, swabs from a right front door exterior.
Correct.
Submission 57 being swabs from a hood and fuel door and rear hatch exterior.
Yes.
58 being swabs from a glove box handle, right front door interior, and also right front seat. Is that correct?
Yes, those are within that submission.
And also 59 swabs from a Jimenez Arms pistol, and it has a specific stanchion number 7 next to it. Is that right?
Correct.
And then also submission 62, swabs from BLS on pistol slide of that same Jimenez Arms pistol.
Correct.
And what does BLS mean, ma'am?
BLS is an abbreviation for blood-like substance.
Now, did you actually examine every single one of these submissions?
I did not, no.
And why not?
For this case, only certain items were requested. And so it was mentioned that, for example, one submission is submission 54. There may be multiple items in that particular packaging. Now, they're all individually sealed and packaged, but only certain ones were requested for analysis. So the ones that were not requested, I just made my notes that they were contained within that package, but I did not examine them.
And so the actual submissions that you analyzed were submission 34, 47, and 62. Is that correct?
Those were the items that I conducted some sort of biological testing for blood in this case. Other items, if they were requested but no biological testing, I did what's known as preservation. So I simply take the swabs that were collected and transfer them to a clean envelope, label it with the case number, submission number, and that will get forwarded to DNA.
And let's discuss your results and conclusions for those 3 submissions, 34, 47, and 62. So for submission 34, these are the swabs from the copper-colored defect on a pistol, which was actually submission number 1 in evidence with PBSO, correct?
Yes, correct.
And what were your findings for that?
So a chemical reaction, but not indicative but not specific to blood was detected, which means I conduct a presumptive test, which is a highly sensitive test that'll give an indication if possible blood is present. So that was a positive result. So from there, I continue to a confirmatory test, which is a more specific test designed to say that yes, blood is present, or no, I cannot detect blood. In this case, the confirmatory test was negative for blood.
And so this copper-colored defect on that pistol that was submitted came back negative for the results of blood.
Correct.
And then submission 47, you had fingernail clippings from Mr. Corey Jones. And what were the results of those analysis, ma'am?
So for submission 47, there were two separate submissions, 47A and 47B, which were the right fingernail clippings, 47A, and the left fingernail clippings, 47B. So those blood was detected on those items, that presumptive test and confirmatory test. Oh, I'm sorry, I misspoke. For 47A, the presumptive test was positive and the confirmatory test was positive. So blood was detected on the right fingernail clippings. For the left fingernail clippings, the presumptive test was positive, but again, the confirmatory test was negative, so blood was not detected.
And so right now, we're talking about actual fingernail clippings from an individual, correct?
Yes.
And so when you're analyzing this, you're analyzing any of the biological evidence that may exist on the outside or inside of that fingernail that was clipped off.
Typically, when I'm conducting this type of testing for fingernail clippings, I just try to take a sterile cotton swab, I add some water, and try to collect material from the underside of the fingernail. They're curved, so you can kind of swab that underside. That's the area that I'm usually looking at.
And why do you focus on that underside area of a fingernail clipping, ma'am?
That would be where any material would be collected normally, underneath the fingernails.
And so you had a positive result for blood under the right fingernail clippings and a negative for the left, correct?
Correct.
Now, you don't actually compare those results to determine whose blood that may be. You just pass those results along to the DNA analyst who will do that.
Correct.
And then for submission 62, which was the swabs from the BLS on the pistol slide of the Jimenez arms, what were your results?
So for that sample, I conducted the presumptive test for blood, and it was negative. So blood was not indicated on that sample.
So even though you have something that may appear to be a blood-like substance, you conduct further analysis.
Yes.
And at times, such as this, it comes back as being not blood.
Correct.
And obviously, those results for all the submissions that were all passed along to DNA analysts, correct?
Correct.
And then once again, November 2nd of 2015, where you provided additional submissions that came into your custody, once again for the purposes of testing serology.
Yes, I was.
And then fewer submissions this time as compared to last time, correct?
That is correct.
You had submission 31, which included swabs from an iPhone, correct?
Yes.
Submission 52, which were swabs from a pistol manual and also more from a magazine. Is that right?
Yes, both of those are within submission 52.
And then submission 53, which is broken down to multiple sub-submissions, which included swabs from a Glock Model 27, different parts of that Glock Model 27, and also some of the live rounds and holster associated with that, correct?
That's correct.
And once again, did you examine every single one of those?
No, I did not.
And then as far as your results for the analysis of those submissions, what did you find?
I did not conduct any biological testing on these items. I simply preserved them, so I transferred them to a clean envelope, and those would be forwarded for DNA analysis.
And so would you actually do anything with those swabs, or are you preparing them for the DNA analysis?
I don't do anything with those swabs other than prepare them for the DNA analyst, correct?
Very good. And then once again, all of those results were documented in a report, and then they were forwarded to the actual analyst, who would then perform all the necessary testing for potential comparison results, correct?
Correct.
And did that conclude all of your work in this PBSO case number 15133920?
Yes, it did.
I have no further questions at this time, Your Honor.
Cross?
No questions, Your Honor. Thank you.
All right. You may step down. Watch your step, and thank you. And don't forget your purse.
Thank you.
Going to announce a witness, Your Honor, and have a nice expectation.
I'll keep my fingers crossed. Let me hear it.
Angie Vassilotti.
Angie Vassilotti.
She's on her way, Your Honor. And on her way does not mean on her way down the hall, unfortunately. She is en route right now.
Okay. All right. What's going to happen now, jurors? Yeah, go back inside for me. Something in the water or something. What's happening? They've been watching on TV and saying that judge is too nice.
Definitely were much faster this morning than we expected.
All right, let's try to tighten up. Did we you have an idea of where the person is?
Yes, she's supposed to be here by, at least by 2.
What time is it now?
She's actually our last witness for the day, Your Honor.
And
If we could move into the motion limit if you want, or any type of discussions outside of that. And tomorrow we have 4 witnesses for the morning.
okay. And when I tell the jurors what the plan is for tomorrow, what time can I tell them they think they'll be excused? So they can make plans, whether they maybe have to go to work or.
I expect it to be prior to lunch.
Okay, great. So why don't we do some work then?
Yes, sir.
Let's do some work. So we have an issue. Motion's been filed, the response has been filed, and it is the state's request to limit the number of expert witnesses in regards to the medical examiners that the defense may call. Am I got it right?
Yes, sir.
All right. Now, defense. The case you provided me, Gutierrez. So I have to tell you, I'm very familiar. This generally comes up in what? Civil cases. So I have a lot of experience with this. And, you know, car accident cases, somebody's got a neck injury, I got an orthopedic, I got a neuro, I got this, I got 3 orthopedics. So I dealt with this a lot. So the case that you provided me, not that helpful because in regards to your position, because if I read it correctly, the experts they weren't even experts really. They were treating physicians, which puts them in a different category than another witness, and they all had different experiences with the patients and their own personal observations. So that makes it a little bit different. And I'd like you to be able to put some meat on the bone why you think you would need 3, and they all, I would presume, reviewed the same medical records. There's a discrete set of medical records in this case, and I presume that all 3 have reviewed the same exact medical records. They never examined the body, like in Vargas, it was a patient, and although I read in the state's motion, I believe, that one of the doctors actually did have one additional item they reviewed, which was the deposition of one of the other doctors. Did I get that right?
The last medical examiner expert that was listed by the defense actually reviewed the other 2.
Other 2.
Dr. Fowler reviewed Dr. Nelson and Dr. Thogmartin's reports that were written, and I believe also their deposition.
Okay, so defense, I'll give you a chance to tell me why you think you need 3, and under the law, why you would be entitled to it. Why don't we do it at the podiums? I have trouble hearing everybody. My wife said, I've been watching on TV and you got your face all scrunched up all the time. I said, I can't hear. I'm really trying hard to hear.
I think loud enough, sir.
No, you're the exception. You and me. So, Mr. Lubin, when you're ready, you take your time.
I'm ready. Judge, an issue here is whether or not Corey Jones could have run after receiving the fatal wound. The literature...
And also, can I ask you one question before you get going? I thought I picked up on a nuance the other day when this first came up. And although, facial expressions aren't actual answers, Fernandez said something, and I saw this team all look at each other. And so correct me, I picked up on it that perhaps you said Dr. Juiced was actually going to say you might have run a little bit, and you scrunched up your face because it seemed that that's a change from what the prior opinion was. Correct me if I'm wrong.
I did say, and she testified.
What was the comment?
It ran a couple yards.
So now it's not that Mr. Jones dropped immediately. He may have run a couple of yards.
In Stand Your Ground hearing, she testified that it wasn't as if he received the shot and then immediately dropped right where he was shot.
I did not read that. Did she then say how far she thought it was possible for somebody to run with that injury?
I believe she said
10 to 12 feet?
She indicated she would get, Judge, she actually indicated during the Stand Your Ground hearing that she would give him about no more than 10 to 12 yards.
Yards. Okay. All right. And so, Mr. Lubin, and I think the testimony so far that this was approximately 125 feet in question here, which I'm scared of my math. It's about 42 yards. Is that right?
Yes, sir.
All right. I'm going to shut up now. Go.
Thank you, Judge. The literature and the anecdotal evidence is 100% clear on the issue. The answer is yes. Easily could have run 40 yards, 50 yards, 60 yards, 6, 7 city blocks, up 4 flights of stairs, down 4 flights of stairs, because the issue is oxygen to the brain and not damage to the heart. I would venture to say there isn't another medical examiner in the country, probably in the world, competent medical examiner that would say what Dr. Juiced says. I would venture to say that there isn't another medical examiner anywhere that would say that, because it's junk science. And we requested a Fry hearing and you denied it without a hearing. So this isn't one of those issues where it's, well, you got 1 and they got 1, or you got 2 and they got 2. They couldn't get 2. As a matter of fact, we have 4. We're only seeking to introduce 3. I could have gotten 20, I could have gotten 30, I could have gotten 40, because what she's saying is not science. The literature, the books, their anecdotal information is crystal clear, and it's 100% on our side. The Spitz book, the DeMaio book, they all talk about activity after damage to the heart and lungs, because there is that much time stored in the brain for the person to run at a minimum of 10 to 15 seconds. So you know how far a person of average speed or walking could get in 15 seconds. So it's not cumulative testimony. It's not fair to suggest that what we have here is, well, we got ours and they got theirs. This isn't a crash scene. This isn't something like that. It isn't blood spatter where you can have, different visions of it. This is so crystal clear that it shouldn't even be allowed. Her testimony should not even be allowed. And what happened is the state didn't, it was apparent that the state didn't agree with Dr. Joost, and so they reached out to two former chief medical examiners from Palm Beach County, Drs. Thogmartin and Nelson. And both of them came back and wrote reports and said, no, the person could have run. Both of them. So what I've got here is a situation where the state is saying, yes, the person would have dropped right here. And look, all they've got is one person who says that the person could have run. You know, who are you going to believe? The one who did the autopsy or the one who just analyzed the report? It's so misleading. It's so unfair that when you think about who we've got now, we've got Drs. Thogmartin and Nelson, who are former chief medical examiners, years and years of experience, and Dr. Fowler, one of the, probably the leading expert in the country now that DeMaio is not doing it and Spitz is not doing it because they've aged out a little bit. Makes me wonder, by the way, whether there's more Brady. I'm not accusing the state of anything, but it makes me wonder whether they've reached out to more people who have rejected their theory. So if there is more Brady, I'd request it. The cases we cited were across the board, but in favor of it for different reasons. We've got the Vanier line of cases that says, and the Chambers versus Mississippi, which is the United States Supreme Court case, which says that we should be allowed to put on our defense. We should be allowed to say that this man easily could have run that far. And we're really nullifying it if you only allow us to put on one witness and mislead the jury. I'm not saying you would intentionally do it, but mislead the jury into believing that that's not accurate. I recognize that it's an abuse of discretion standard, and I would suggest to the court that it would be an abuse of discretion when she's a standalone, she's an outlier, she's wrong. She's absolutely wrong. Now, I get that there's a protocol for reporting and that the National Medical Examiners or Pathologists Association says that you're supposed to write a report that anybody could look at and read and could give the same opinion. But she's actually saying, I held the heart in my hand. I even know more than these other people. It's not fair unless you want to give us a Fry hearing. I mean, and do that. We'll present evidence at a Fry hearing of that we're right and they're wrong. So,
isn't that just like any other medical expert?
No.
It's not that their science is junk, it's their opinion stinks.
It's not.
And I'm
just like,
saying that in a general, she's not saying, you know, if your heart gets shot when the stars are aligned in certain alignment, that would indicate, that's junk science. But you're an expert cross-examiner, that's the idea of cross-examination. So I definitely disagree with that it's junk science and therefore a Fry hearing. I mean, my order was pretty straightforward, and I'm pretty confident in that. The Vanier case is not exactly on point. Was that your case?
No. The Million case was my case.
Okay. So I remember Vanier. It's from here. I remember it. And that involved some letters being admitted. Yes. And the number of letters were limited to prove that it was a suicide, not a homicide.
And they were hearsay.
It's a little bit different than saying. I'm
a little bit
your
different,
defense.
but none of them really deal with the situation where it's so crystal clear. It's so clear that this person could have run the anecdotal information is legend. I mean, people running upstairs, 4 flights of stairs, changing clothes, and then dying. People running 6, 7 city blocks. It is so crystal clear, and it's unfair for them to be able to suggest that, no, this is just a contest between 2 doctors. It's one-on-one. I mean, it's just not fair. And there are cases, there's another issue. There are cases where a witness is listed by the other side, and then they object to that witness being called, and the 4th District has rejected that. If this,
Well, there's no motion on that.
Yeah, they do say that.
No, their motion was they want to stop you from impeaching or bolstering your witnesses with saying the state called you first, and that, my friend, is clear. You cannot do that, for sure. So I'm not going to let you then get. I got to hear from him first. But I'm definitely not going to let you impeach them with, hey, the state called you first. It's clear law on that. I'm not going to allow that. But let me let him respond, and then I'm going to give you last words. Go ahead, sir.
I want to be respectful of the things that defense counsel just said. I take exception to any kind of reference in regards to a Brady violation.
I had a feeling.
I think that is absolutely unnecessary and really goes against everything that we've done so far in this case as far as the manner in which we've been treating each other. Likewise, I'm happy that counsel's statements are not evidence, because what was just said from that podium is not crystal clear. It's crystal clear depending upon the injury to the heart and depending upon what caused the injury to the heart and depending upon how that affects the blood flow, including to the brain, as to what a body will be able to do after that injury. Hence, why we have experts. I'm not a medical forensic pathologist expert, and I guarantee you defense counsel is not. So we have experts that come here and say it. Just because I could sit here and try to slam everything that he said in a way and disparage it, but it's not evidence. That's not what we're talking about. Defense counsel wants to argue basically the Fry motion. That's done. We're here to talk about bolstering and cumulative evidence.
Well, I've ruled on Fry hearing. I've ruled on improper bolstering.
And now we're talking about cumulative evidence.
Correct.
You want to slam the state for reaching out to get other opinions? We do our job. We do a thorough investigation. I guarantee you that if we did not reach out, we'd be hearing about that right now too, and blaming us for doing something wrong. We've given everything over that we have. The 2 doctors that we reached out to had an opinion based on what is possible, and then they had 2 different medical experts come in, take those opinions, adopt them, and they want to call one of them. It's interesting to me that Mr. Lubin talks about how a forensic pathologist following the rules writes a report detailing what their findings are. I'm still waiting for my report from Dr. Fowler. Haven't received it yet, but that's fine. We're talking about cumulative evidence. There's nothing different from what Dr. Fowler says to what was said by and I say there is a difference from Dr. Thogmartin and Nelson, because Fowler goes even further. And he takes what they say and adopts it and puts even a heavier stamp on it. And just so we're clear, Dr. Juste and her stand your ground motion in hearing said he's going to make it at most a few yards, 3 to 4 yards, and that's why I said the number of feet that I said in opening. But this is what she has consistently stated, being decades long forensic pathologists. If they have somebody who says different, they have enough money that they can hire 100 medical experts to come and say something different. That's fine. That is part of their job as defense counsel. That doesn't mean they get to call every single one of those 100. And just because counsel stands up here and says that it's so unfair, it's so misleading, you could say it's unfair 100 times, it doesn't change it. Say it's misleading 100 times, it doesn't change it. We have an expert, cross-examine her. Feel free. Have your expert counter that expert. We absolutely will cross-examine him. But when we start playing this numbers game, that's why we filed the motion about cumulative. It's not about a numbers game when it comes down to experts. It's not who can go and hire more experts and stack up a side so that the jury thinks, well, there definitely are more. And to try to say that there's no way that there's any other expert out there that will say what our medical examiner and forensic pathologist says, they have no backing for that. I understand, why Mr. Lubin says those things on the record. I don't think it plays any part into the weight behind our motion, the weight behind all the law that we cited, and what we're asking for as the remedy to say, you get an expert. If there's some type of material difference between the three, obviously, I was waiting to hear that argument, but there absolutely isn't.
Okay. I'll give you last words, and that last point that Mr. Fernandez made, that tell me what is different. That's what the cases talk about. What's different? What facts were considered and situations and things that were reviewed are different to require that you had more than one?
The character of this is different than what he's suggesting. The literature is certainly clear that the only injury that incapacitates you is a top of the spinal cord injury. That means you can't move. That's the only one that incapacitates you. And there's nothing different particularly about what they have to say, except they cite different, some different literature. It's that this is out of the mainstream, and I'm suggesting to the court that it would be misleading and unfair for the court not to realize that, not to have, as I said, we could have had 4, I could have had 10. In one day, I could get 10 more because her science is not accurate. It's not just like your typical